For a long time, I told this story the wrong way. I said that stuff let me down, the clients disappeared, the money ran out. All of that is true, but there was one detail I left out every time. Before my business completely fell apart, I had already started telling my clients that it was barely holding together. They would come in and just sit across from me. And instead of having a normal conversation, I would suddenly start telling them how hard things were, how few bookings I had, and how everything was resting on me alone. I thought I would just be honest. Now I can see that this was where the turn began. Not on the day the money disappeared. Earlier, in one short sentence. You may have a sentence like that too. Today, we're going to find it. One sheet of paper, 8 steps, and not one accusation against you. I'm Sweden. This is Noted This. In the last video, we talked about your environment, about how around some people you speak in your full voice. Around others, you make your own life smaller before anyone even asks you to. Today, we're going one step deeper, because sometimes a person has already left the old group chat, changed the job, found support, and started getting results. And still at some point, she moves backward. Not in a big way, almost invisibly. She puts off the email until Monday, offers the discount herself, shares good news, and immediately adds that it was probably just luck. Then she looks at what happened and says, I ruined everything again. We're not going to use that sentence today. First, I will show you how this happened to me. Then we will look at 3 ideas that take the moral judgment out of this kind of setback. After that, we will go through all 8 steps of the SATI method. At the beginning, I was on fire. I did a lot of the work myself. I trained the staff. I explained the same things again and again because I wanted the people around me to be good at what they did too. I put in time, energy, and money. I truly believe that if you did good work, something good would eventually come back to you. And it did. Regular clients started coming. The first money came in. Inside, there was this very warm feeling. I think it's working. I could make a beautiful turn here and say that then the market changed, or the season changed, or other people were dishonest. Other people were dishonest too, but first there was me. This is the part that is hard for me to say. I started complaining to my clients. Not to a friend at night, not to someone who asked how I was holding up, to my clients, to people who had come to me for my work. Someone would sit down across from me and the conversation had barely started, but I was already saying, things are so hard right now. Then I would add that I had very few bookings, that everything had become more expensive, that the staff were letting me down, that I was so tired, that everything was on me. Every sentence was true, and every sentence was doing something else too. For a few minutes, I was not alone in how heavy everything felt. Someone saw me, someone felt sorry for me. I felt close to them. Then the person left, and the version of me whose business was going badly stayed in the room with me. I repeated that version of myself to the next client, then to another client. If something inside you feels uncomfortable right now, I am here with you. We are not going to turn this recognition into a sentence against you, because after that everything looked as if one event had simply piled on top of another. First, the staff started working worse. Some people were late, some didn't show up, money started disappearing. There were fewer booking, not all at once, one less than another. I went into debt. I couldn't pay the rent or the electricity. I delayed my employees' wages. Then I delayed them again. I didn't pay myself at all. At some point, the clients stopped coming completely. That is exactly how it felt. As if by magic, I explained it to myself: the market, the off-season, unreliable people. I was just unlucky. All of these reasons existed, but they didn't explain one thing: why I started talking about my business as if it were sinking before it had sunk. Now I can see two forces. One got up in the morning and built the business, worked, taught, held everything together, solved problems. The other was looking for a familiar place, a place where life was hard, or where I had to cope, where I couldn't believe too strongly in something good. That state made more sense to me. In it, I knew who I was. The second part didn't want to destroy my life. It was trying to return me to a familiar version of myself, because what was familiar felt safer than success. This is the part that still gets me the most. My business did not collapse because one complained. Life does not work like that. But in that one complaint, a force showed itself for the first time. Later, that force took part in many decisions. That is what we're going to look for today. Not so we can throw it out, so we can finally understand what is protecting. I want to show you a picture. The first time I understood it, it stung. Then I felt relieved. Imagine a goal that pulls you toward it and scares you at the same time. You want to grow, and you are afraid that growth will take something precious away from you. While the goal is far away, it's easy to dream about it. You have not changed anything yet. No one is reacting. No old role is starting to crack. Then the first client comes, the first payment, the first person who says, "Yes, I choose you." And the distance between you and that new life gets smaller. Back in the 1940s, Neil Miller studied approach avoidance conflict. On this graph, both forces grow as you get closer to the goal. But close to the goal, avoidance rises more sharply. That is why the brakes often don't come on at the beginning. They come on near door. Your hand is already on the handle, and suddenly you remember that on the other side, you may have to become more visible. Name your price, tolerate someone's envy, change the relationships at home, or stop being the person everyone always rescues. The second idea is even more uncomfortable, but it takes the word lazy out of the story. Robert Emmons and Laura King ask people to write down their personal goals and notice which ones were in conflict with each other. Where there was conflict, people thought about the goal more and acted less. That is very easy to recognize. You spend the whole day occupied with your goal. You replay it, plan, argue with yourself in the shower, open your notes, close them. By evening, you are exhausted, while from the outside it looks like you did nothing. The work was happening, it was just happening currently inside you. The third idea comes from Robert Cadell and Liza Haley. They call the hidden side a competing commitment. You promised yourself you would grow. At the same time, you may be keeping a second promise, not to become a stranger to your family, not to become too successful, not to lose the right to feel tired, not to end up without your people. No one knows about the second promise. Sometimes not even you. That is why motivation doesn't help. The first part shout louder. The second keeps acting more quietly. We are going to put both of them on one sheet of paper. But first, find 10 seconds. Remember the last time a real opportunity was already right in front of you. A client had agreed and was waiting for your prize. You were invited to a meeting. A message came in with a job offer. The person you liked made the first move. You finished a project and were finally about to show it. Everything was already there. Only one small movement was left. Press send, name the price, say yes, open the file, share the news, and this was the exact moment when you suddenly stepped back. Maybe you read the message and lowered the price, added, we can discuss it, saw the invitation and decided to answer later, even though the phone was still in your hand. Open the finished work, find one flaw, and close the file. Go back 1 second. What happened right before that? What thought flashed through your mind? Whose voice did it sound like? What did your body do? Did your shoulders rise? Did your stomach tighten? Did your breathing get short? Did your hand freeze over the screen? Don't look for the reason behind your whole life right now. We need one specific frame. The second, when the opportunity was already there and you took a step back. Remember it. In a few minutes, that moment will be the beginning of the practice. There is one step left before the practice. Look at what you usually do after the moment when you stepped away from an opportunity yourself. Let's say a client was waiting for your price and you named a lower one, or someone invited you to a meeting and you answered 3 days later, or the work was ready but you found one flaw and never showed it to anyone. What happens next? The first option, you decide it must be a sign. You think, maybe I am just not meant for this. If it were really mine, I would not have been afraid. Or normal people don't behave like this. Everything starts to feel heavy. You put the decision off until Monday, until the new month, until the day when confidence finally arrives. Nothing dramatic happens. Time simply passes. The second option, you start looking for an explanation. You open a video about self-sabotage, save a post about fear or success, buy a course, write beautiful phrases in a notebook, and now you understand quite well why other people step away from their goals. Then an ordinary day comes. You write a message, reread it, and once again delete the part where you ask for more. Speak directly or show what you really want. You understand everything, but in that exact second, the knowledge doesn't reach your hand in time. The third option, you start pushing yourself. You set the alarm for 7. Make a strict plan. Promise yourself you will stop complaining, stop putting things off, and stop making excuses. The first few days look wonderful. You complete the tasks, check the boxes, and go to bed feeling as if you have finally pulled yourself together. Then one morning you wake up and can't get out of bed. You open your to-do list and feel nothing but heaviness. A new thought joins the old fear. I ruined everything again. I didn't even have enough discipline. All three options have one problem in common. They only speak to the part of you that wants to move forward. Their part is persuaded, educated, pushed, but the part that stopped at the last moment has had no voice this whole time. It appears for a few seconds. When you need to name the price, say yes, show the work, accept something good, and once again it makes the decision for you. This time we're not going to fight it. We're going to give it a place beside the part that wants a new life. That is what the SATI method is for. On this page, both parts will finally be able to say what they want and what each of them is trying to protect for you. Take a sheet of paper, a pen, a red pencil. Ready? Then let's begin. At the very top of the page, write I want and stop. I want. We need a sentence where both of your truths can be heard. First, write two short answers separately. The first part wants to move forward. Finish the sentence. I want, for example, I want to grow my project. I want to grow my project. I want to earn more. I want to accept this offer. Now ask the second part. If this works out, what important things might I lose? The answer may be the right to make mistakes, time for myself, time for myself, a sense of safety. Look at both lines. Now join them using this simple structure. I want, where I'm going, and at the same time I want to keep, what matters to me. For example, I want to grow my project and let myself rest. I want to grow my project and let myself to rest. I want to earn more and stay close to the people I love. Check the sentence. It should hold your movement forward. And the second part has been trying so hard to protect for you. Write it at the top of the page. Divide the page into 3 sections with 2 horizontal lines. The lower matrix is in the bottom. The middle matrix is in the center. Let's write the upper matrix is at the top. Let's start at the bottom. In the lower matrix, write what you do in those 10 seconds when something good gets too close. You write, I'm just trying it for now. About a decision you have already made. You name a price and lower it yourself. You turn down a meeting because I feel weird today. Write it down. Please don't be ashamed of what you have done. I just told you how I complained to my clients and lost my business. We have all been through our own versions of us. And it's okay. Now, the middle matrix. Here, you have already understood that it is not only about a bad client, a bad month, or a lack of discipline. You have started looking for a way out. Maybe you bought a new planner and mapped out the perfect week on Sunday night. On Monday, you got up earlier, answered emails, and did something you had been putting off for a month. For 3 days, you walked around thinking, there, I'm finally back. On Tuesday, you missed one task. By Friday, you were already afraid to open the planner, because inside it was the version of you that you had failed to hold on to again. In the middle matrix, you are already moving. You take a course and do the assignments. You start working with a professional. You make a plan. For a short time, it gets easier. Sometimes it even feels as if everything has changed. Then the new life starts taking up too much space in your real life. People expect an answer from you. Clients come back. You have to repeat the success. Name the price again, show the work to more people, and you start preparing all over again. Right in the middle matrix, what have you already done to get out? And then, after which first result did you start preparing again instead of continuing? For example, I took a course and got my first clients, then limited the bookings. I started a channel, saw low views, and stopped posting regularly. I named the new price to one client, then went back to the old one with the next clients. The middle matrix often looks very respectable. There is a lot of knowledge, effort, and honest work there. One part of you has already stepped out of the old life. The other still does not know whether it is safe to follow. Now the upper matrix. Find a moment when something good was close and you didn't step back. You named the price and didn't offer a discount. You accepted a compliment and only said thank you. You stood by your decision after someone asked, "Are you sure?" We need one real moment, even a short one. How were you sitting? How were you breathing? What were your hands doing? What did your voice sound like? Write down a few details and leave 3 blank lines. Now put a dot where you are today. Take a red pencil and put dot where you are today. Most often it's somewhere between the lower and middle matrices. If you're in the lower matrix, it's okay. We all started at the bottom, and that is okay. Look at the lower matrix. Which line makes you want to cover it with your hand? Where do you want to say, I definitely don't want to talk about this one? Choose one. Read it as if you are speaking to yourself as you. You talk about a good order and immediately call it luck. You see the email and put off answering until the opportunity goes cold. Circle the sentence 1 with the red pencil. Only one. We're noticing it. We are not pressing it in deeper. Say the sentence calmly, without blame, as if you were telling someone close to you exactly what happened. Now circle it with the red pencil only once. We're not reinforcing this pattern through repetition. We're making it stand out from the others so that we can draw the transition line from it next. Step 3 is complete. Behind this action, there may be a part of you that is trying to protect safety, closeness, or the right not to cope perfectly. Today, we will not force it to speak separately. We will include both parts in the desire and in the final sentence in the upper matrix. Now, look at the lower matrix. At the sentence you just circled, put a small dot next to it. This is a place where everything usually turns backward. Now find a moment in the upper matrix when you were already different, not perfect, just alive, steady, free. Put a second dot next to it. Now connect them. Draw a line from the bottom to the top. This is the first path. Now bring the pencil back down and trace the line again and again. With each movement, don't think about how it is supposed to look. Just notice this is where I usually stop and this is where I'm the person I want to be. 7 times. 1, 2, 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Look at the whole page. At the bottom is the exact moment that holds you back. At the top is the stage where you have already been able to act differently. You did not invent it today, you remembered it. In body's transition, the newborn Buddha took 7 steps and a lotus opened beneath each one. That is why in the SATI method 7 remains the number of transition. 7 times your hand followed a path you used to reach only by accident. Now the path is visible. Look again at the sentence in the lower matrix, the one you circled in red. Don't judge the woman who acted that way. At some point, that strategy truly helped her get through fear, keep your familiar place among other people, or avoid someone else's disapproval. But now it's taken too many opportunities away from her. Take the red pencil and cross out the circled sentence 7 times. I'm not going back to this anymore. Look at the crossed out sentence. You are not promising that you will never feel afraid again. Fear may return. The pulse may return too. Today, you are giving up one familiar action that used to follow that fear. The old way stays on the page. Next, we will give a voice and a shape to the version of you who knows how to act differently. Go back to the upper matrix. Remember the blank lines we left there? We need them now. First, reread the desire you wrote at the very top of the page. For example, I want to grow my project and let myself rest. Now remove the words I want and write the thought as if the state you choose already belongs to you. I grow my project. And have rest wherever I want. Or I name the real price and keep the right to say no. I accept opportunities and don't betray myself. I keep moving at my own pace and accept help. We need one short sentence, one you will be able to remember in the moment when you want to repeat an action from the lower or middle matrix. Write it on the blank lines in the upper matrix as I am. Now, reread it silently. Remember the moment you wrote in the upper matrix. The emotion, the feeling, the sense of what it was like when you felt freer or more confident. How were you standing? How did you hold your head? What did your voice sound like? Read the new sentence out loud. For example, you wrote, I grow my project and let myself rest. Take the page in your hands and read the sentence out loud. I grow my project and have to rest wherever I want. Imagine that you are not saying it to the camera or to someone you need to convince. You are saying it to yourself, to the version of you who is still sitting in front of an open laptop late at night. Your eyes are already tired, but she is afraid to close it. It feels as if everything will start falling apart again the moment she stops. Say to her, I grow my project and let myself rest. Maybe your voice will be quiet. Maybe you will stumble over the word rest or want to laugh at yourself. That is okay. Do not correct yourself. Look at the sentence you wrote. Your work is still in it. You don't have to give it up, pretend it doesn't matter, or become less ambitious. But you're still in the sentence too. Not only as a person who has to work, cope, and carry everything alone. As a living woman who can get tired, close the laptop, go to bed, and continue tomorrow. Before now, those two things may have felt impossible to hold together. Either you keep moving forward and have no right to stop, or you choose yourself and then you will have to abandon everything that matters. Now, for the first time, they are standing side by side. On the page, my project and my rest, my movement and my life. What I am creating and the person who is creating it. Read the sentence one more time. Not as a promise that everything will become perfect tomorrow, as a few kind words to the version of you who has been pushed for far too long. Look at the sentence you wrote in the upper matrix. I grow my project and let myself rest. Now circle the whole sentence 7 times. Each time circle the entire sentence from the first word to the final period. Do not rush, do not begin the next circle until the previous one is closed. 1, 2, 7. Now, among everything written on the page, the main sentence is easy to see. It holds where you want to go. I grow my project. And what you no longer want to lose on the way. I let myself rest. Both parts of the sentence are inside one circle. You no longer have to choose between them. In the next step, we will turn the sentence into a reminder you can return to every day. And here is the final part, the most important one. Without it, everything you wrote today may stay nothing more than a beautiful sheet of paper. Choose a piece of jewelry you can wear every day and touch quietly with your fingers. A ring, a bracelet, pendant, or earring, not as a talisman, The journal will not do anything for you. It will remind you to stop before you answer from fear again. Text first, lower your price, or give up something you wanted. Every morning for at least a week, return to the upper matrix. Stand in the same posture. Breathe calmly. Remember the version of you describe at the top of the page. How she carries herself, how she speaks, what she chooses. At that moment, hold the jewelry in your hand or touch it with your fingers. 1 or 2 minutes is enough. Then during the day, when you feel the familiar urge to return to the old action, touch the jewelry again. Don't rush to answer or decide anything immediately. First, remember the woman in the upper matrix. Feel her energy. Then act. Only then does the practice enter your ordinary life. After the practice, you didn't find a bad version of yourself that you need to get rid of. You saw a woman who wants more, and the same woman who has been afraid for far too long that she will have to pay for that more with something precious. Before today, that inner argument was almost invisible. You may have called it laziness, weakness, bad luck. Today, you saw what was really happening. You have the right to want more without sacrificing yourself for it, and to stay beside yourself while you move toward your goal. Before we go, 3 small things. First, if you were listening instead of writing, go back to the practice and do it with a sheet of paper. Not when you have time, today, before you go to bed. Second, put the jewelry right beside your bed on the nightstand. That way tomorrow morning you will not have to look for it. You will not have to decide whether you are ready to begin. You will simply reach for it. And third, write your desire in the comments. The one from the very beginning of the practice. You do not need to explain anything. I read every comment. And the one more thing. This video closes the Start Here playlist. You have just reached the end. Now you have the whole method. 1 sheet of paper, 8 steps, and a way to catch your own hand in the moment when the old version of you is trying to make a decision for the new one. But this is not the end of the channel. In many ways, this is where it truly begins. The method you have new works everywhere. With money, your body, work, parents, self-worth, the fear of being visible almost anywhere, 2 different voices are speaking inside you at the same time. But next, we are going to one very specific place. Probably the most painful one of all. The place where sometimes one pause in a text conversation is enough. 1 word without its usual warmth, 1 slightly colder reply, and technically nothing has happened yet. He has no left. You have no cancelled your plans. You have no agreed to something you didn't really want. But something has already shifted inside you. A few minutes ago, you were in your own day, your own body, your own life. Now, all of your attention is over there. In his tone, the pause, what he said or didn't say. That is the moment I'm interested in. Not the moment after you have already spiraled, texted, called, or spent the whole night replaying the conversation. A little earlier. The second when you can still say beside yourself. The next playlist is called Stay With Yourself When He Pulls Away. I'm not going to tell you everything that will be inside it yet. I will only say that every video will begin with a small, almost invisible situation, the kind that can feel embarrassing to say out loud because from the outside it looks like nothing. And one more thing, sometimes one comment really is not enough. Sometimes there has been a whole letter living inside you for a long time. A letter you can send to your partner, or a letter you though was for him, but all this time it was really about you. If a letter like that appears, send it to me. I will leave my email below the video. And once a month, I will choose one letter and read it in a separate episode. Anonymously, gently, without judging the writer and without rushing to decide who was right in the story. We will look at that happened between two people. But more importantly, we will try to notice the moment when the woman in that letter stopped hearing herself. And we will find the first step back. Those episodes will be collected in the separate playlist, Dear Sweden. Maybe one day your letter will be heard there too. But today, you don't need to untangle your whole life. Today, one sheet of paper is enough. One piece of jewelry beside the bed, and one sentence in the comments. I'm Sweden. This is Notice This. Notice, return, choose.